All right, cyber traders, welcome on back. Close things out for the week this Friday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. That is Friday, October 30th for the recording. Welcome on back here for the afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. Man, I'll tell you, it's been a pretty slow day. Nice morning for a Friday, I have to say. The markets fell off. We ended up doing well on some shorts. We ended up catching a couple of nice pops. Otherwise, though, things have been pretty slow heading into the late morning, the early afternoon. I go to drop off my car for an oil change. Well, the second I leave, and I mean the second I step away from the office, I told Rich L inside our trading room, just the man to hold the fort down. The second I leave, news came out. The CDC lifted the cruise line ban. I mean, the markets haven't really reacted that well. Actually, in fact, they're heading lower heading into the afternoon. Looks like they are, at least. The S&P 500 ETF, the SPY on my screen here. But hey, CCL, NCLH, RCL, they all ended up making nice pops heading into the early afternoon. So great to see. I mean, CCL is up 6+% right now. For anyone tuning into the afternoon meetings, you guys know that I love my NCLH, Norwegian Cruise Lines here. This one, at least, is a shortable of the three. So, this one also made a nice pop. RCL, Royal Caribbean Cruise, they're all moving in unison. So it's easy for me to do just to begin, but we'll just put the cruise lines all together on the watch list so far. Hopefully there's plenty more where that came from. Oh, and by the way, if you guys are focused specifically on like CCL, Carnival Cruise Lines, CCL is hard to borrow. There is another Carnival stock, CUK. This one is shortable for those of us on TradeStation, just so you know. I mean, I'm shorting. I'm going to trade NCLH at least. Hopefully a short if it pulls back. If not, maybe a pop higher heading into the afternoon. But at least it goes to show, this one's shortable. CCL is not. All right, so with that in mind, what we'll do really is just scan the market across the board. I wouldn't have expected as much to happen this Friday afternoon. Kind of a Halloween edition of this afternoon meeting as well. So I feel like a lot of us are kind of gearing up for the weekend, Halloween ahead. So what we'll do is go from top to bottom, see if there's anything else cooking here. So BLRX, one of the better moves that we caught today, at least from the market open. Whereas the entire markets fell off, at least upon the market opening up. This ended up making a nice squeeze. So it took a long while to get the gears going. And this actually reminded me quite a bit like the Pola stock from yesterday. If you guys recall Pola, it was just a grinder up through the late morning, early afternoon. You can see it wasn't the cleanest trade. Maybe a nice trend here heading into the mid to late morning, but up and down, just for all the times where we thought that stock was going to make a big move. It just didn't. And then finally, heading into the final 30 minutes yesterday, this stock did. Well, getting back to BLRX, very similar, right? Very choppy across the morning. Ended up holding underneath $2.30 pretty nicely. Then finally off like a third or even fourth attempt at breaking higher. It finally made the squeeze, held 230 as support, lifted up beautifully from there. So, hey, it paid off, right? So this ended up making the pop higher up and over 250. I ended up jumping in from there. I took a 6-cent loss or 5-cent loss from 230. It shook me out and then flew up without me. I jumped in from 250 and I was able to squeak out 16 cents at least. I left a lot of money on the table there too. So ended up running up towards an eventual high of the day of $3.10. And at this point, dumping back down. So for right now, yeah, this trade not on our radar heading into the afternoon. I would only expect this to either just exhaust out or just with this trend here, just keep going. All right, MARPS, we call this MARPS. Really quickly, one of our students, Andrea, called this out. Rightfully so, ended up making a great squeeze, but we're familiar with this trade going back into early October. We ended up seeing the stock make a pump and then a complete dump. And then the following day it was down like 30%. So it's done the same thing over and over. When he called it out this morning, Andrea, that was the first thing I said. I said, watch out. Well, hey, this one ended up trading a little bit more volume compared to the other days where it broke out, meaning that the spreads were actually a lot tighter on level 3. The order book was much more liquid compared to those days. So it ended up moving up, got halted on the way up. When it reopened, it came storming back down, but ended up making a nice second run after. So this was probably one of the cleaner trades I've seen from this MARP stock. Well, unfortunately, the end result's the same, right? A dump right back down. So just goes to show history typically has a tendency to repeat itself. How about this Tcda stock? This thing's been pushing up pretty nicely throughout the whole day. I mean, really, upon the market opening up, volume died off, but this kept going. So this was one from yesterday that we had our eyes on, right? We were watching this. We were going over this during the afternoon meeting. I was hopeful. I was telling you folks here heading into the afternoon, if this could break above resistance off of 460 from there, that would be the squeeze. But it didn't happen. Well, today we ended up getting it. I mean, it broke from like 420-ish here, 430, and then from there ran. But, hey, for a stock that was down 45, 50% from yesterday, there was a nice gap for this stock to try and fill. And we're not really expecting a full squeeze up here to fill the gap. I mean, if we can get a fraction of this gap fill, I'd be extremely content. So I'll tell you, I was watching this from earlier today. I wouldn't have expected this to keep going as it is. So, I mean, hey, if anyone jumped in this trade from the early afternoon, congrats. Ended up doing pretty well. For the afternoon, it still is very interesting. I mean, it's holding strong. So at this point, why can't this move up higher? At the same time, if this does crap out and go completely the other way, for those of us on TradeStation, it is shortable. So it hasn't done that just yet. That's why even more, I think that this could be just a great stock to watch heading into this afternoon. All right. AIRI was a stock from pre-market, pumped up and dumped off really early. Yeah. We went over this in Traders Talk earlier this week, folks, for all of us inside the trading room. For a stock like the AIRI that ended up making a big pop in pre-market or even after hours, I think this was, by 7:30, this stock was already dumping back down, never ended up setting itself up for any buying, any breakout through a big resistance going up, just kept going down. So, once the market did open, a little pop, but from there, fell apart. All right. I will check out this ACHC stock, but I feel, let's see. Yeah, just pretty flat. I mean, it's slowly moving up, I guess, but not expecting a whole lot for Friday aside from the cruise line news. And the market's really, again, like I said, once that news came out, not really a big reaction across the board. If anything, the SPY is right at the lows. So not as jumpy to just put a stock on the list right now, guys. Normally, and as Fausto would say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the hump days of the week. We'll find more earnings coming out those days, more news across the board. This FNGD up 18+%. This is an ETF, though. You can see that within the name, FANG ETF, right? Triple leveraged inverse ETF. So with the markets falling off, this one is pushing on up. I've never seen this one before, FNGD. I don't really follow FANG too much, so we'll keep it in mind perhaps. We'll see if there's any other ETF trading more volume, but this one looks pretty interesting. Moneygram. This one was pushing up nicely off of earnings, I think it was early this morning. Well, it popped up. This ended up crapping out the complete other way. I didn't short this from the top. I wish I did here. Actually, I just realized, just heading into this meeting that the stock was shortable. So the stock ended up diving back down. It kind of based around 5 here. You can see it kind of broke under the level, broke back through this level for right now, but the volume really is like garbage. I mean, just you could see over the last 3, 5 or so minutes, just peanuts, right? It broke under 5, and then after that, just here, the volume traded just started to dissipate. So is it possible to squeeze from 5? Perhaps. But for right now, I think just this is a little tired, trading 39 million shares just about on the day. Already pumped up, dumped back down. All right, let's see. Just skimming across the board on the gainer side here, if there's any other familiar names that I see. We got our CUK, we got our CCL already on our list. Not much else, at least that I see. All right, we'll hop over to the losers list. We'll see if there's anything looking good over there, actually, before we do that. Here's my SQQQ stock, or ETF rather. With the markets dropping off near the lows, this was moving up alongside FANG, I guess. But you have the inverse symbols. You have SQQQ, VXX, which really hasn't made that big of a push compared to the others. UVXY, same thing. Looks like SQQQ at least has more traction to it on the way up. That FNGD ETF too. All right, so at least we'll check those out perhaps at the end. We'll go over to the loser side here next with the markets falling off. As I usually say, I would imagine there'd be more on this side here to begin anyway. So BLCM, it is shortable, down 40+%. Looks like it made a nice squeeze up a little bit around 12 o'clock Eastern time here. PBI, Pitney Bowes, I don't know, just dived off here today. We've seen the stock trade in the past, so it's not just one that came from nowhere. I think they came out with earnings, if I'm not mistaken, but you could see from the daily chart, ended up running up from mid-July, early August, from 3 all the way up to 7. It's trying to creep back up and over that price actually over the last week, but whew, big drop. It is shortable. It is at the lows. It is down 26+%. So hopefully this can keep going. PBI, we'll put this on our list as well. All right. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got Twitter earnings, right? We talked about Twitter and Twitter earnings at least yesterday afternoon. They ended up diving off like 15+% in pre-market, got crushed with the market as it opened up and right off the lows. So kind of a no-brainer there as well. TWTR will keep on our list heading into this afternoon. Now, really quickly, because Twitter actually is one that I'll probably be more interested in myself. I would assume 50-cent levels and whole numbers. You could see 41.51, 41.50 had some volume traded off it, but then after that, kind of dropped off, right? So this is just recently breaking lower right now. That explains why you haven't had as much volume traded at those prices compared to above those prices, right? So heading into the afternoon, it kind of seems like it's basing off the low, 41.25. So we'll call that a support as well. If it breaks down below that strongly, if we see a lot of red coming in on the time and sales under that price, I'd be led to believe 41 would be in sight pretty quickly. All right. What else do we have? Opco, OPK, familiar name. I didn't trade them much this morning, really at all. I looked at them in pre-market. They ended up spiking down, and I think this was even yesterday afternoon. And then they ended up spiking pretty much right back up. Yeah, really funky after-hours move from earnings. Ended up diving off this morning, so could have been a good short. The stock is shortable. We've done well on the short side with the stock in the past. So ended up doing pretty well, actually. Dropped from the high here at the time, 385, all the way down to 330. Beautiful move. Heading into the afternoon, not really as jumpy to put it on the list, but probably keep it in mind for next week, maybe early Monday, Tuesday next week. All right, Rrc Ranger Resource. We've seen the stock in the past. Yeah, got crushed here today off the lows, or kind of near the lows right now, off 635. It's at 650 now, but seems tradable. More of a level 1 stock, perhaps. I don't mind slipping this on here too. All right. Anything else? We got Jumia. We got Bloom Energy. We'll check those out. Those are stocks that we've had on our side list over the last few weeks. Bloom BE, you can see more on the daily chart actually, just over the last couple of months running up and up and up. Beautiful chart of higher lows breaking out from 19 bucks on the way up, but since dumped back down. So including yesterday, ended up dropping from earnings. Pretty similar move to OPK. They're not related. I just find that pretty interesting. And ended up making the spike down, the spike up, then this morning dropped off. So this stock, much like Opco, is tradable. This one really isn't doing a whole lot though across the afternoon. So again, we'll kind of keep this in mind for next week, perhaps. All right, Jumia, however you may pronounce it. The news came out early this week, I think it was, that Citron Research claimed that this could be a $100 stock. Quite outlandish claim, right? So anytime you see that big of a projection, I mean, this being like a $15, $16 stock at the time the news came out, to see 100 on the news headline, naturally you would expect a big move up. I mean, this ended up jumping up in pre-market that morning, but dived all the way back down and just continued. So I don't know what's up with this stock, guys, but it's just been very active, of course, over the last week. It ended up spiking down to 15 and just popped right from that price. Seems tradable. Big drop heading into the afternoon. I don't mind putting this on our list here as well, just to see if there's any more, push on this trade heading into the final 30 minutes of the day. All right, I think that just about does it, right? Not yet, actually. We got Workhorse, WKHS, right? We ended up seeing the stock get crushed this morning with the market, but more importantly, smashed right underneath big iceberg orders, 16 from there, 1580, broke below those pretty quick, dropped down to 1550, stalled out for a long while, but now at this point with the markets driving lower, I had a feel the stock would make a move down to 15 bucks by the afternoon. Obviously, it hasn't done that just yet, but with the markets diving off, I feel like this has better opportunity to do that. It just isn't doing much right now, right? So it's kind of in the same line as BE and like OPK and so forth. Just pretty flat for the afternoon right now. I'll kind of just keep this on the side, workhorse. We did well on this trade earlier today. All right. So folks, let me know if there's anything across the chat boards that you would want me to call out or look at here. All right, Mark, one of our new members joining us here. Mark P is asking, is anyone still trading the morning picks? So the morning picks are the morning picks, right? So, we typically don't continue to trade those stocks all throughout the day. The volume will typically die off on most, if not all, of those stocks. So for those stocks that ended up making big moves, and for a good amount of them that you've heard me go through already, I did say those runs are pretty much done. So we're going to post our list, Mark, very shortly. And then from there, we'll try and react just to any of the quick movers, at least from that list. All right, Jerry calling out FSR, Fisker, right? No, so really quickly, FSR, formerly known as SPAC, SPAQ. So they ended up changing their symbol from Spartan Acquisition to Fisker, right? They had that whole merger maybe like a couple months back. You know what's weird, Jerry? I don't know why. Because I was always able to trade SPAC, and this stock's listed under the NYSE. I don't know why I don't have data for it. It's saying data request failed. Yeah, pretty odd. I don't know why. I mean, right now it's doing nothing. So, either way, we're not going to focus on this trade for this afternoon, perhaps. Definitely a stock to keep in mind, though. Like, again, good stock to keep on our side list. Michael's saying JKS still falling off. Well, that was from earlier, right? Right now, it's not really doing much. And he says Twitter just dropped below 41.25. There we go. Broke under and over it. So that's where we need to read the time in sales and ask, how much volume got filled on the way down? Did we see a big iceberg order get filled off of 41.25 or so? You know what I'll actually do here, looks like at 2:43 Eastern time, pretty much right at the time that you see here. I'll actually run back on the tape for you folks and see what happens. Looks like it broke under, broke over, more or less a false breakout initially. Yep, look at that. Right off the lows. So it wasn't just the low of the day. This was a major level. A 24,000 share print filled. I mean, a bunch of others as well. Now, the question is, do we have momentum under the level? Do we see a lot of red coming in under 41.25? At first, a little bit, but there was more volume getting filled on the offer above 41.25 after. So it made a nice little drop back down, but look at where it is now. So for the afternoon, should this re-break under 41.25, and if we happen to see some resistance on the ask at that price, then we're hoping to see the stronger push down to 41. So at least at this point, it already made the false breakout without us entering the trade. So we'll see if this can re-break lower heading into the afternoon. All right. All right, folks, anything from YouTube or Facebook Live, if you guys have any other stocks that you would want me to look at, just type it in the chat board. Just let me know. I feel like otherwise we should be good. I don't have my Benzinga Pro up, so if there is anything just popping big or dropping big right now, actually, I'm not using that here. So Pat asking about NIO. That's usually in play, but right now, the same to be said. It looks like it's kind of coiling up, but don't be teased by this stock. It's not doing really much of anything here. Is it possible for NIO to make a small 15, 20 cent move? Of course. But you could see the same thing with this as we had said with like Workhorse. Dropped off earlier this morning. It was a great short. Now, if the markets continue to push lower, perhaps we'll see this, drop back down a bit. But it's a Friday. Not much is really happening otherwise. If you ended up doing well from early this morning, Pat, and alongside Pat, everyone else, I would just, be very selective with your trading. Focus on this list already to begin. And then from there, if there's anything else that makes a crazy pop or drop, then from there, call it out. All right. Hopefully I don't miss any other news. Like I said, I just stepped out right before the news came out about the cruise lines popping. So for anybody that's joining this afternoon meeting right now, just joining us late, of course, we're going to focus on the cruise lines, RCL, NCLH, CCL, even that CUK heading into the afternoon mainly. From Tony saying BL. Pretty expensive, Tony. You got a huge spread there. I wouldn't want you to be trading that stock anyway. It is moving up nicely. It is at the highs. So in that regard, I like the pattern. would be a good call out if we had a much tighter spread. If we're trading expensive stocks, then I'd rather trade RCL. Spreads are way tighter on this, much more volume on the book, right? And this is actually half the price. All right, folks. So I think that will just about do it, though. Like I said, if there's anything else though that makes a great pop, great drop that comes out based off of news, call it out. Call it out, and then otherwise, I would just say start and stick with this list at least. All right, folks. For anybody tuning in on social media, as always, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, notify right on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu. For all of us inside the trading room, I had mentioned this just earlier within the week during this very meeting. We're going to be doing something pretty cool coming up for you folks inside the trading room. So I hope you guys are excited for it. We have the announcement coming up probably within the next 2 weeks. For anybody tuning in on social media, if you'd like to learn more, look to see what that announcement will be, feel more than free to join us. We'll be coming out with that announcement pretty shortly. It's not like a holiday offering or anything like that. We're doing that anyway, but actually something cool, something very exciting for all of us inside the trading room. All right, folks, let me post and tweet the picks right now. And then aside from that, I'm going to take a quick water break and jump right back to it heading into the final hour of this afternoon. Take care.